This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
Are we at a place where people have revenge fantasies at a much higher number than they did in the past? I mean, we all can have those moments, but it feels like people are more so just like seething on them all the time now, and it's right at the surface, and it's not just, oh, you cut me off, or, you know, look, I hate the healthcare system too, but I don't think what he did was right. I've had moments where I'm like, my God, like, why can't you get this right? I can't say I've sat there thinking about going into the healthcare facility and doing anything. I think that would be horrible and crazy. But is there more of this now? Do we have more? Is it more acceptable to have revenge fantasies and to have them so close to the surface of being able to be acted out?
Yeah, I think the level of outrage in the culture, and probably in many other countries too, the level of outrage is higher than it's ever been. And this is, I think, why we see the political schism as bad as it is now. People are angry. And what fuels that? I think the media, social media fuels it. You know, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm always trying to share humor. I'm trying to share things that are uplifting or interesting or educational, things about psychology, because I think emotions are contagious, but a lot of people are on there sharing outrage, and they're sharing, you know, this hostility and this idea of it's our group against all the other groups, you know, no matter what place you're at on the political spectrum. It's like a sports team kind of thing. And I think this has just fueled this tendency for some people to just simmer in it.
I think initially, when social media kind of came about, and for a lot of people, like, it's always been here. Yeah, it's pretty new. It's really, really freaking new. The thought, I think, might have been, okay, now people have an outlet to let this stuff out, because before social media, we always knew somebody who was, you know, always kind of sitting over there seething on this or that, or, you know, they were just kind of bitchy, and like they went home at the end of the night, went to bed. It was a new day the next day. They found new things to be outraged by or mad at. But it ended. It would go up, it would come back down. It would go up, it would come back down. Social media seems to have allowed things to not come back down. It's like, I can be enraged at this today, and then tomorrow I can get it even further. And then I join this group, and it no longer goes back down to a healthy place of it's not worth consuming your whole life over. And sooner or later, it consumes, because it slowly gets into their brain. It's just slowly takes over in a very dark, almost seductive way.
Mm-hmm. It's very seductive. It's very catching. And when people marinate in it, and they particularly join online groups, no matter what platform they're using, they can find a group for just about anything. And then they're with other people who reinforce the outrage constantly. And they can log in at 6 a.m. They can log in at midnight, you know, and here's this continual feeding of the anger and the negativity and the outrage and the distortion. Frankly, a lot of the information is wrong. Mm-hmm. But it's the attraction of our amygdala is attracted to things that make people angry or frightened. And it's, you know, we've only had Facebook, I joined in 2008, 2009. This is fairly recent. And a lot of people have just joined in recent years, and everybody, you know, finds a niche, and it can be wonderful. I mean, I love social media, but it's how you use it. Yeah. And you can use it with uplifting, you know, content and uplifting people or fascinating, interesting people, but so many people don't, and so many people use it for all the wrong reasons.
Well, that's what's going on, and that's how people act. How do you fix something like this? Because it is so ingrained in people now. I mean, we even saw, if you look at the Luigi Mangione support page for financial stuff, you see doctors, you see nurses, you see people like that on there saying, like, thank you, or I believe in your cause. You're bringing awareness to this. There's outrage everywhere, without a doubt. And of course, in the end of the day, I mean, Brian Thompson his memory. He was a father. He was a husband. He was seemingly very well liked with a lot of people. Yeah, there was a question about an investigation and insider trading. It's not a death penalty, but that could certainly put you away if you did something bad there. But as a human being, he wasn't disliked for the most part. Anyway, but going back to how do you fix something like this where people are just so quick to go, you're the devil, let's destroy that, and then let's fund whatever destroyed that current devil.
Yeah, and that's it, the current devil. If we could solve the problems fueling the outrage, certainly if and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but if we could make progress on the healthcare fiasco in this country, would that help? Would that prevent other, hospital staff or, insurance company staff? Would it prevent them from being at risk? Because I think people who work in hospitals are at risk as well. We've had people go in with guns and kill surgeons. I mean, there have been a lot of weird cases of violence happening in hospitals. In our local hospitals, you have to go through a metal detector now because of the violent incidents. So if we could solve that problem, would that help that? But then there are all the other reasons that people get outraged and other people who can be targets. And I don't know how we solve that other than to keep having these discussions. And it's something I talk to people about all the time, is only use social media for positive, uplifting, interesting information. You can curate that news feed. You don't have to waste time on things that upset you and make you miserable. And so that's a message I keep sharing. I don't know, my outreach, I've got 6,000 people on Facebook that follow me. So I'm often told that it does make a difference and people pay attention to that. But we all need to keep saying it. It's like, let's smarten up.
Yeah, ultimately, it comes down individually to people going, I don't want to be consumed by negativity. I don't want to be consumed by anger. And it takes a second to kind of get there, especially if you're already amped up, or that's what you're so conditioned to being. If every day your brain is trained to get, all right, what are we going to get upset about today? Let's keep scrolling. If you realize, geez, that's really affecting me in other areas of life, and I'm not really a great person to be around. I don't even like myself if I'm getting too deep into that. Yeah. That's why there needs to be a little more awareness on that and a little more self-reflection that people really have a hard time doing. It's just in mass. Everyone needs to do something like that. We need to teach this a little bit better. We need
Definitely teach it.
But before we put this into our children's hands, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I think we need to understand what it can do to us before we even hand it off to them, because I think most of us, parents and such, who had these things from our early 20s or mid 20s on up, and we became parents and like, oh, well, it's technology. Let's let the kids learn it. And we didn't fully understand the dangers of it. I'm wondering if generationally, the ones that have had it, like literally since birth, if they'll have a better understanding and be better able to police it or monitor it or find a better way to live with it without it being such a detriment to society.
We sure hope so. It's a conversation I have to have with unnamed people in my family who immerse themselves in the podcast world, and they're listening to a lot of political stuff that's angry. And it's leaking out in irritability. And honestly, it's my husband. He's having nightmares, and it's like, quit listening to the podcast at 11 o'clock at night before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like it's something we have to continually remind people. It's like, you can't control the world. You can only control what goes on up here. And if we want to create a better world, we've got to do a better job of this.
The world of true crime never stops, and neither do we. Press subscribe now to get daily updates, in-depth analysis, and expert opinions from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.